Thank you so much for being part of Joyous Live this evening. It's wonderful that you're right there with us. Today, just like always, we'll be talking about very important national issues, and not I'm sure it's not surprising that we'll be also discussing the fact that a group called for the sack of the Honorable Minister of the FCT, that's Nyesom Wike's sack. A coalition of over 10,000, according to a report, 10,000 indigenes of the Federal Capital Territory and civil society groups all led themselves to the National Assembly complex on Wednesday, that's yesterday, clamoring for the resignation of Nyesom Wike, the current FCT minister. The protest, organized by the Network of Civil Societies for Economic Sustainability, cited Wike's alleged incompetence and lack of vision for the capital city as the primary reason for their demand. Is there more to this? Because in that, if you watch that that video as they were talking, they mentioned his rift with the current governor of Rivers State. As part of it, they talked about land grabbing. There's so much they discuss, and we'll be delving into that shortly when we go for a short break and return, and I'll introduce my guest who best do justice to this, as he's so much more, including being a lawyer. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back. In the studio with me to discuss this call for Wike's sack is Okoi Obono-Obla. He's an APC chieftain, former presidential aide, and above everything, he's a lawyer. Thank you so much for being part of this.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes, did it come as a surprise that this a civil society organization, they call themselves the indigenes of the FCT, under the aegis of the Civil Society for Economic Sustainability? Did it come as a surprise as anybody would even call for the sack of the Honorable Minister, especially when so many commendations are coming his way this period?
I'm not surprised, because I'm familiar with the trend in Nigeria. Whenever people start calling for the removal of a public officer, it may be likely that that public officer is doing very well. That public officer is a reformist. That public officer is a maverick. He has stepped on toes. He has done what people have not done before. Other public officers have not done, or didn't have the courage, or didn't have the vision to do. So I'm not surprised. I've always seen Wike as a reformist. If what he did in Rivers State is anything to go by, if his pronouncements, it seems to me he's a very courageous person, and because of that, maybe the president assigned the FCT ministry to him. Yes, because the FCT ministry was in disarray. Abuja was in disarray. Abuja was so dirty. Abuja was descended into a slum, almost a slum, in the last administration, and we needed to do something surgical, something drastic. Yes, and we needed to have a minister who is a maverick, a minister who is a gadfly, a minister who is a radical sort of, who is not afraid to step on toes. I think that is why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is a very experienced politician, assigned him
to the Federal Capital Territory.
Exactly, to carry out some surgical operations to restore the distorted Abuja master plan, okay, and restore the beauty of Abuja. It's a very beautiful capital, but it has not been taken care of in the last 10 years. So he has to bring somebody who is cut out to do that kind of tough job, So I'm not surprised that some misguided people who are being sponsored by some elites. The elites in Nigeria are very funny. Whenever you try to block them, or whenever you try to alter the status quo, or change the status quo, they always fight back. Particularly if you are given a tough job to do. I experienced it when I was chairman of the Special Presidential Investigation Panel for Recovery of Public Property. It was a difficult job because fighting corruption is a difficult job. Corruption will definitely fight back.
Maybe fighting with more arsenals.
Yes, fighting an entrenched interest. You know, people who think that they are untouchable, and when you take them on, they would likely do what they are trying to do to Wike. I know that Wike has stepped on toes. He has carried out some reforms, like the land administration in Abuja, which is in disarray, which is a cesspool of corruption. So he must have stepped on some very powerful toes.
Right.
Yes, of elites. And there's this elite conspiracy. They don't want change. They are satisfied with the status quo ante because they are benefiting from the status quo. So they are likely to sponsor some people to carry out demonstrations to create the impression that the person has not done well or the person is even corrupt and so forth and so on. So that is what we are seeing.
I'm happy you mentioned the land reforms that the Honorable Minister has introduced. However, that is some of the things that the convener of this protest mentioned. I will quote something he said. He said that the alleged land reforms that the Honorable Minister embarked on are suspected to be targeted at disposing, or rather dispossessing Nigerians of their properties and reacquiring them through cronies. That is something these people said. While you call it sponsored, there are over 10,000, according to reports. I wasn't there to count every single person. However, report has it they have 10,000 FCT indigents. That must be concerning. Somebody must have done so much work. If allegedly it was sponsored, 10,000 is a lot.
I have used myself as an example. When I was the chairman, I took on corruption squarely, and there were protests. I was even dragged before the National Assembly.
Yes, and I remember
all allegations were made against me to paint me black just because they wanted me out of the way. So 10,000 demonstrators. Well, it doesn't make anything. That is a hired crowd, and I know how these things are done in Abuja. Some people live in Abuja mainly for them to make themselves available, cannon folders to be used by those who don't want the system to move forward. Those who don't want the country to move forward. They are reactionaries, and we always find them because the theaters are very difficult, and some people, don't mind doing all sort of yoke man job just to make money to take care of themselves. So that is what we are seeing. Abuja is notorious for that. All these sort of demonstrators who don't have, any purpose. They just demonstrate because they have been given money to demonstrate. Okay. I know it. I've lived there for the past 16 years.
So you do not believe there's any legitimate concern for the FCT?
I don't believe, because they have not even given us details of what the so-called land grab by the minister. But I heard the minister was making a very interesting point. Land in Abuja belongs to the federal government, and it is the minister who give land to people, allot land to people. You pay 100,000 naira, and then the land will be given to you. Then you turn around and sell that land for 1 billion naira, 100 million naira, 200 million naira. He was talking about that. And those who are doing those things are not happy. They have to sponsor the demonstrators or protesters to give the impression that the man is not doing well. But the man hit the nail on the coffin. If we get land from government for 200,000 naira, 100,000 naira, for goodness sake, why will you sell the land for 1 billion, for 500 million naira, 200 million naira? That is what is happening in Abuja by speculators who got land free, almost free from government.
Right.
Yes.
Well, that's a quite unfortunate trend.
It is.
However, you already know how the Honorable Minister, in his stance, in his body language, he doesn't mince words.
Yeah, sure.
Would you say that
it's courage?
It is courage.
A leader must be courageous to step on toes, to reform society. Yes. So I admire him. He's very courageous, and he has come out to say, look, I am going to fight land speculators. Just like, let me give an example. When I was chairman of the panel on recovery, and I saw that a lot of houses in Abuja, good houses, people are not living there because people cannot afford the rents. And why? Yeah, these people indulge in money laundering. They make money maybe from government or from elsewhere. They build houses, and these houses are unaffordable. I said I was going to sell those houses, and like all hell was let loose.
I remember
for making that statement that I'm going to sell these houses, because when you build houses and you fix rents that people cannot afford, at the end of the day the houses are just there wasting for so many years. I've seen some estates in Abuja more than 20 years. Nobody has lived there. People are not living there.
What still are some I can point at that even have security agents? I mean, policemen manning houses that nobody lives in. That's even more concerning.
Minister Wike said people are going to pay property tax.
Taxes, exactly.
Yes. So if taxes are levied and on people who have properties all over the place, and they don't want to give those properties out for people to rent, and then let them pay tax. Let them pay tax to government. So, exactly. So if somebody who says that people have not been paying tax on property in Abuja, if somebody who says that, that person will be seen as a radical. That person must be seen as a reformer. That person must be seen as a gadfly by our selfish elites. We have very selfish elites in Nigeria. And so this person wants to take food from us. Okay, we will fight him.
And this is what they call the fight back.
Exactly.
But there's like I was heading to his stand. So often it sounds very oppressive. Some people might find it so. Do you think that he should pipe it a little low
everybody
down?
Has his time.
But one of the things they said here was that he is being very difficult to work with.
Yes,
would you say that he should pipe it low and be a little more empathic? I mean, nobody wants to lose money.
I'm using myself as an example. When I was the chairman of that panel, they said all sorts of things. That I am not a system person, that I'm not a team player. Some very highly placed people in government say so, that I'm not a team player. Okay? That what is about team playing? Indulging in corruption, you know, or obnobbing with them. I wasn't obnobbing with them, with these people. And so they saw me as a difficult person. They saw me as somebody who's not a team player. The same thing they are saying about Wike. Everybody has his style. And his style has succeeded in changing Rivers State. He did so well in Rivers State for 8 years. He did so well. So that same style of being boisterous, we can't take away that from him. Yes, that is his style. And he's achieving results by being boisterous, by talking tough. That is it. He hasn't done anything wrong. And I have not heard about, Wike is corrupt. He was governor of Rivers State, oil-rich Rivers State. Yes, I have been his critic. Like when he was trying to make some political incursion to my state, Cross River State. I was not happy about it. I said, look, don't come to Cross River State. Restrict yourself to River State.
Right.
But I admire him for his courage and speaking out, and working very hard to fix River State. I admire him for that, and that is what he's trying to do in FCT. But these reactionaries would distract him. They don't want to allow him to do his work.
But did it surprise you that in that statement, or during the protest, a component of his rift with the current governor was mentioned?
Maybe it's a fallout of the political wranglings in River State.
It could be.
Yeah, it could be. Otherwise, what business do they have with River State?
I wonder
River State is about maybe 1,200 kilometers from this place. And he's not governor of River State again. He has left his governor of FCT, a federal government territory. So what business do they have mixing up, trying to, use the politics of River State to begin to fight him in the FCT. So it may be his opponents in River State sponsor that protest.
It's possible. Yeah. But if that is a possibility, what would they hope to achieve? Get him out of governance?
They want to distract, to give a dog a bad name. Okay. That is, I also suffered it. They will do all those things. At the end of the day, if the man in charge is not in charge, he may want to, move against him.
Right.
Exactly.
Because they were actually calling on the president.
Yes, but I don't think the president should listen to them. You think, I have told you why the president appointed him. He would have given Wike a foreign ministry. He's a lawyer, attorney general, or finance, or whatever. But FCT is just like you are in EFCC fighting corruption. Corruption is entrenched in some aspect of FCT administration. I've mentioned the land administration. So you need a tough person who can withstand pressure. That is why the president sent Wike to FCT. It was not by accident. It was not by accident, because I think I see the president as a reformer. Okay, so he wants to reform the FCT and restore FCT to what the founding fathers wanted
of in the first place.
Yes, exactly. A federal capital of Nigeria that everybody will be proud of. And so some people, some sectional-minded people, even attacking him, the Mahmoud Gumi, he attacked Wike and tried to create the impression that Wike was fighting his religious group, which is not true, just simply because he received the ambassador to Israel ambassador to Nigeria. And tried to link it with the crisis in Gaza. The crisis in Gaza is not religious, because the Palestinians they are Christians, they are Muslims, they are Jews. So that is it. It's not a religious issue.
Yes, and I often ask a lot of people, do you think Israelis are Christians?
They are not.
Jews.
They are not. They are not.
I remember that
it's even the Palestinians who are Christians.
Right.
Yeah. I have been to Palestine, where Christ was born and all that. Yes, and in that place, they don't care whether you are a Muslim or a Christian. And it's even very offensive to them to ask, are you a Muslim or a Christian? Among the Palestinians. Yes, it's offensive. I did that, and I asked, I was curious. I said, oh, are you he said, no, here we don't talk about Muslim or Christian. We are Palestinians. Because in a typical family, you may find Muslims and Christians, just like the middle belt of Nigeria.
Exactly.
So that is it.
So we've been having all these attacks on the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, and it shows you that when you stand to fight corruption, corruption fights back. But this trend is very worrying, and if this continues, I mean, we had that disruptive protest, rather, that's the word I'm trying to get.
Yeah, it's just for the president to stand with him. Because, interestingly, the president said, Wike is not only a minister, he's my advisor.
Right.
So I think the president stands with him. If the president who appoints you stands with you, fine. All others can go to hell. Right. Yes.
Anyway, well, I'm just trying to say that we saw that protest. It was quite disruptive. Movement was disrupted because people had to stop by for them to their procession to pass and all of that.
You cannot stop people from protesting.
Of course.
We are in a constitutional democracy, and the right to protest legitimately, within the ambit of the law, it's a fundamental right. You can't take it away.
It is.
We are in a democracy. Abuja is the capital of the largest democracy in Africa, one of the largest democracies in the world, Nigeria. So you have all those kind of scenarios now and then. People are always protesting for one reason or the other. So there's something wrong with that, as long as it is done legitimately within the ambit of the law.
Now, it's done legitimately, especially the last protest. They concluded protest. The fear is that they will continue. Like I had conversation with some of them who said they will keep it going. But my question would be. But
let me just before you ask. You saw what they did to Senator David Umahi.
Exactly.
Yes. I have been in the public service, and I was disappointed the way civil servants behave. They are not patriotic. They are retrogressive. They are not hardworking. When you go to most offices in Abuja, people come to work at 10 o'clock. Because I came from the private sector. I used to go to my office as a lawyer, maybe sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes I sleep in an office, in my chambers.
Just to get work done.
Exactly, to get work done. But you see, civil servants just coming to work casually at 9 o'clock, at 10 o'clock. And when Minister David Umahi said, look, you don't have to come to work anytime you want to come to work. The official resumption time is 8 a.m. So you must be in your office by 8 a.m. so that work starts. Oh, the labor union, so they're fighting him. They protested, demonstrated, tried to create the impression that Minister
it was a very shameful,
was not doing his work.
It was quite shameful,
yes, exactly.
I must tell you. So, and I remember saying
that is what I expect all the ministers to do, showing leadership, just like what Dave Umahi and Wike are doing.
Right.
Showing strong leadership, uncompromising leadership. If they do that, they can now energize the president and then galvanize Nigerians. Because one of the things that Nigerians do not believe in government is because they feel, government is not truthful. Government does not tell them the truth. Okay? So if Nigerians see that the ministers are working consensuously, they are doing the right thing, their body language is okay, the Nigerians will key into whatever government is doing, and that will galvanize, energize government. That's what we need in this country. When the people support what the government is doing, then the government will break mountains.
Exactly. But does it concern you about this corruption trend of a fight back? You would answer after this short break. We're going for a very short break. When we return, we'll even open phone lines so that you too can contribute to what we are discussing. This group that is calling for the sack of the Honorable Minister of the FCT, what's your take on it? We'll be back after this. Welcome back. This is still Joy Asoye Live, where we have been discussing the group that's calling for the sack of the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Nyesom Wike, and what could be instigating all of this. My guest has been Okoi Obono-Obla. One of these days you will just punish me. Do you think we come from the same area? Okoi Obono-Obla, he is a former presidential aide and an APC chieftain, and yet he supports ardently what Wike has been doing for the FCT. But my question before we went on that break is this trend of corruption fighting back. It is not always the case where the president comes all out to support and gives backing to this person and the corruption does not win. But this trend, what does it say about the fight against corruption? Yesterday we celebrated the World Anti-Corruption Day.
I've been saying that from personal experience. Nigerians are not serious about fighting corruption.
Right. Nigerians are
maybe we are pathologically corrupt, or our culture
permits it.
Yes,
really?
I'm telling you.
In spite of all the crimes
let me tell you, let me give you a personal example. When I left the panel, when I was suspended, and when I went home, my relations were angry with me. You know why?
Why?
They said I didn't empower them. How do you expect somebody who was fighting corruption to empower you? Because maybe I didn't make money to dole out to them, to patronize them.
Right.
Yes. Some of my relations were not talking to me for a long time.
That you didn't do much with your office.
Yes.
You did not reflect
that I wanted to be more
righteous than
righteous. Yes, more pope
than the pope. Yeah, more righteous than the
pope, exactly, or more Catholic than the pope. So that is it. So is that a people who want to fight corruption? Or for even in politics, the people do not respect politicians who are very intelligent, brilliant, but they don't have money to dole out. Those politicians are never popular. And these people who dole out money, do they ever sit down, reflect, ruminate, ponder? Where is the money coming from? Because as a public servant, if you are not corrupt, you can't have money to throw around, to buy expensive cars.
Especially in the quantities that we see.
Build houses. You will not. If you are just, content with what you are collecting as your salary, you cannot help anybody. You cannot dole out money. And people will not be happy if you don't dole out money. So is that a country that wants to fight corruption? I can tell you that maybe Wike is not patronizing some elites. by giving them money or by giving them contracts, you know, that which they will not execute, or which they will execute poorly. That is why it's not popular with these elites. And these elites will always bring people, conspire and sponsor demonstrators to ask for his removal from office. So that is why I am saying that we are not even serious about fighting corruption.
So what can be done? Because corruption is fighting back. We're
Yeah,
seeing development, sustainable development that is planned with all good intentions.
Yes.
We're seeing it being thwarted because of corruption.
I agree.
Even the president with his renewed hope plan for the nation.
I agree
exactly, it's being thwarted by corruption.
Yes.
So we can't go this second way.
If we want to fight corruption, maybe we should fight corruption the way Chinese.
Capital punishment.
Exactly, as taking care of. Yeah, why not? Why not? You remember this recent case concerning P&D.
Yeah, P&ID.
ID. How a civil servant, a woman who was advisor in the Ministry of Petroleum, how he colluded with foreigners who wanted to freeze this country of $11 billion. That is a whole lot of money. If we have that money, all our road infrastructures can be taken care of. All our dilapidated universities can be taken care of. But this woman didn't mind, you know, undermining his country, sabotaging his country, just because they promised that they were going to give some money to her, and some monies were given to her.
Right.
Yes. So why would that kind of a person who wants to bring down the whole country, why wouldn't he? Why should he be spared? That person should be taken out.
Well, this administration, your administration, you're an APC chieftain. This administration has said nothing about corruption. I mean, I even listened.
I don't think so.
I listened very well.
Oh, that is why Wike is Wike not fighting corruption?
How is Wike fighting?
You had agreed with me that
Wike is only doing what he thinks is right for the FCT.
Yeah, listen. I've told you the FCT is just like what will I call it? It's people, even politicians, scramble to be ministers, to be appointed ministers of FCT. Do you know why?
Why?
Yeah, because there's a lot of money. FCT is very, very rich. One of the richest, entities of government in Nigeria.
Right.
Yeah, because the population, the revenue, and all that. So politicians believe that if you are appointed a minister of FCT, you are made.
Not to mention all the lands you have at your disposal.
Appointing a tough person like Wike, a stubborn person like Wike, is part of fighting corruption. So if you say that APC is not fighting corruption, I don't agree with you. Wike is fighting corruption.
How has APC fought corruption? But for the appointment of the EFCC head, we've not seen we've not seen the body language.
Corruption is not fought on the pages of newspaper or in the studio of television station.
But you also mentioned an instance where we would have seen the stance of the president. We see the Nigerian head. There are several instances I can mention.
Well, I don't agree with you.
It doesn't seem like this president has a firm stand on the fight against corruption.
All the reforms the president is trying to carry out. It's part of fighting corruption. Corruption is not fought only by arresting people and locking them up. You also have to use other means of fighting corruption apart from arresting people and taking them to court. You can also block the leakages in the system that corrupt people use to siphon money. I'm sure a lot of reforms that this government has put in place, even the removal of subsidy, is an aspect of fighting corruption, because the subsidy was just a metaphor for corruption,
right,
or people taking money out of the system,
right.
So the president, the first thing he did was to remove subsidy. That is fighting corruption.
Would you say that it would have been better fighting corruption if he had named names of those who used that subsidy as a conduit pipe for siphoning money?
Well, I don't think sometimes you have to start fighting what has transpired 30 years ago.
How then do we get deterrence?
Yes, no. What I'm saying is, subsidy has been part of the Nigerian system for 30 years. So will you start from day one to start bringing to book those who have benefited from the system? Yeah, that will be witch hunting and waste of time. So he has barely come out with a sledgehammer. No more subsidy. I think we should give him credit.
Right.
You
had talked about the FCT minister somewhat fighting corruption. I would like you to elaborate on that. But in the meantime, let me just open phone lines at the moment. To reach us and contribute to what we are discussing, you can call 090-5788-9021. You can call that number and contribute to the conversation we are having. That is 090-5788-2290. I will take that again, 090-5788-2290. That's the number to call to contribute to the conversation we are having. But in the meantime, you were talking about the FCT minister somewhat fighting corruption.
He is fighting corruption. That is why I believe some elites that are pathologically corrupt or have been benefiting from the system, they want to see him off from where he is. For instance, all the abandoned road projects, he has revamped them. Yes, some of those roads projects were awarded to contractors who didn't want to do the work and take the money and put it in their pockets or go to Dubai to enjoy. And he has asked all of them to return to site. You can see a lot of construction activities going on, and that is reviving the local economy. That is also an aspect of fighting corruption, to ensure that contractors who were given road projects execute according to specification, according to the time frame of the contract. That is fighting corruption. I have told you that corruption fighting is not always arresting people, and locking them up. Sometimes you use very subtle ways or methods to fight corruption. Block the leakages, block people who are corrupt from having access to money.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, we've seen a protest against the Honorable Minister. Would you say that the minister should call upon these people, or the president should call for a dialogue? But there should be a dialogue. If about 10,000,
I mean, I have told you, yes. Abuja is about 5 million people or 2 million people, and 10,000 are not happy. 10,000
are way too many to,
they are not happy.
To be unhappy.
That is a very, very, very minute number, because everybody must not be happy. In a democracy, if the majority are happy with what the minister is doing, so be it. The minority, well, we have listened to them, we have heard their grievances. Well, fine. We are given the opportunity to ventilate their anger, to say something, so that is enough.
But how then, you believe that this must have been a sponsored protest. However,
a protest in Abuja, I've told you that.
Very often they are sponsored.
Yeah, I know the anatomy of Abuja very well. Are always sponsored, particularly against public servants who want to do the right thing.
Really?
Yes.
There are no legitimate protests.
No,
everybody comes out.
Maybe 80% or 90% of the protests against public officers. I've also mentioned in this administration, David Umahi, simply saying, come to work by 8 a.m.
And that was a problem.
Exactly. It was a problem for some people. They want to just walk into the office at 12 p.m., 1 p.m., and then at the end of the month, they want to collect salary and go home. Is that how we should run our country?
It is. But that is quite concerning if we have to protest at every time somebody is doing the right thing, and we call for the right thing to be done at all times.
That is why, you see, one thing we have not done is the government engaging the people. I think the National Orientation Agency should engage Nigerians and, talk to Nigerians in the language they understand.
What does that mean?
Change.
The language you understand. That was that phrase.
To change and be contented with what we have. People want to buy expensive SUVs. They want to build houses. When you are given an appointment in government, your people in your community will start clapping hands. That they have given you an opportunity to become a billionaire, to become a millionaire.
So how can that
change?
So
we should start talking to Nigerians that public service is service. community. You place the interest of the community over and above personal interest. Yes, let the government, let the agency of government in charge of orientation begin to tell Nigerians that we should change. They talk to our civil servants, our politicians. Oh, please, this job office you are being given is not an avenue to enrich yourself. It's an avenue to enrich Nigerians, the public. Put your private interest behind you.
Right.
If you want to serve in government. People in the US or advanced countries, people don't go to government because they want to be rich. People want to go to government, maybe from the academics, you go to government to learn the rudiments of government, have some experience. When you finish, you go back to the private sector and you use the experience of acquired in public sector to maybe do your public-private sector work very well. That is what you see in most of advanced countries. Recently, this guy, the former Prime Minister of UK, Boris Johnson, he went to the private sector. He was working in an NGO that has to do with private enterprise. That's what he has been doing. And I'm sure he's bringing to bear the experience he acquired as Prime Minister of UK. As a parliamentarian in UK to bear, and wherever he is, he's helping that congregation very well. Should
we be weary of politicians that are career politicians, have no other jobs other than?
Well, yes, that is, we have those who go into politics because they want to make money.
How do you know?
The political parties are not doing well. The political parties are the training ground, the recruitment ground for leaders. So if they ensure that the process of nomination of candidates to contest elections is transparent, is fair, it should not just be for people who have money, then you will begin to have those politicians. We have a lot of politicians, brilliant, they are technocrats, they are professionals, they want to help this country. But how can they get elected? When you go for party primaries, you don't have money to dole out to delegates, and the party will prefer people who have money to dole out.
That even the nomination form is often so high.
Like I contested Senate. I wanted Senate, to go to the Senate. I didn't have money to buy nomination form. I had to sell my house, a house I built in Calabar when I was a young lawyer, saving 500 naira every month. I didn't have, because I wanted to contest. I felt I was competent to represent my district and that I will help this country if I'm in the Senate. But I couldn't afford 20 million naira. I had to sell that house.
So when you did, you now got the...
Oh, and the process was rubbish. The process was rigged already before we went into contest. And I lost. Okay, so that is it. And it's very dispiriting. That is why you see a lot of Nigerians who want to help this country
already disillusioned.
Exactly. They don't want to go into politics. They say politics is dirty. But I don't agree with them. If you allow, these things to weigh us down, to make us run from politics, those people who don't have the interests of the country at heart will continue to be our leaders. And when they are leaders, they will formulate policies for us, and we have no choice. So we must go into the politics, no matter how frustrating, and stay there and fight a system for reforms. So the parties, if the parties reform, they make the primary election process to be transparent, to be fair, free and fair. Good Nigerians will find themselves into the Senate, House of Representatives. They will become governors, they will become members of the State Assembly, or even at the local government level, where that has been emasculated by the governors. Exactly. The local governors have been emasculated.
Unfortunately.
Exactly, and that is where we are getting it wrong. If we don't have a functional local government area, we will not have the kind of prosperity or the kind of economy we want this country to be. Because governance is not all about Abuja. Abuja is just a dot.
A small dot, exactly.
In Nigeria. The bulk of the governance is in the local government areas. Okay. And you go to our local government areas, the local government chairman cannot do roads, they cannot do environmental sanitation. Everybody will begin to talk about the president in Abuja. That shouldn't be. We don't engage our local governments all the monies they collect every month, what do they do with the money?
Well, it is a chain of who collects what. I mean, the governor collects what he feels is.
Well, we should fight the governors.
Out what he feels like the local
we should fight the governors. The governors are not.
The state assemblies are they subservient to the governors?
No, let me tell you how to wriggle out.
Right.
The state assemblies have been emasculated.
Right. Okay.
Because you find a lot of compromised people who are beholden to the governors. So what we should do is to elect, ensure that the political parties, if the political parties, democratize the process of selection of leaders, good people
would emerge.
We will go to the state assembly, and we must make sure that we fight for those people. We support those people.
How? You just talked about
during election,
how pathologically corrupt some of us can be.
That is it. I'm not saying all Nigerians are pathologically corrupt.
Some of us can be.
Some Nigerians are pathologically corrupt. I believe the people can still vote for people who are honest. Despite the fact that the system is very corrupt. Let me tell you, I went for primaries. The governor didn't support me. All the structures of the party didn't support me. They had rigged the process in favor of my opponent.
That's the problem.
I still had 19 votes. I had 19 votes. I didn't have money to give delegates. I had 19 votes.
Out of
maybe about maybe 500 or so.
So you celebrated your 19?
Why not? Because I didn't give anybody money. The people wanted me. If the process was free and fair, if the delegates were properly selected or selected through a democratic process, I believe I would have won.
Well, I'm happy we had this conversation, although we digressed a bit. Yes. But thank you so much for being part of the program and giving light to exactly what's going on in the FCT. And I'm happy you still have so much hope for Nigeria and our political landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy.
Yes. It's always wonderful to have Okoi Obono-Obla right here in our studios to discuss. The passion that he exudes is nothing like you can compare. But this is where we draw the curtains on Joy Asonye Live. We'll be back tomorrow with so much more, another package. So keep a date with us and have a wonderful evening. And for those who try to call, unfortunately for internet's sake, I'm not sure why we cannot get through. But we'll try again tomorrow. Have a wonderful evening and rest well.